debate. This hour of our event will feature a debate between the two candidates seeking the office of Mayor of Scottsboro. Those two candidates are Brent Miller and Mr. William R. Robin Shelton. Prior to this hour, we had each draw a number to determine the order in which they would begin. We will give each candidate 2 minutes for a short introduction, and then we'll begin our question process. For each question, one candidate will answer first, followed by the remaining candidate, and then the first candidate will be allowed to offer a rebuttal to the candidate answering. We will begin with our introduction, starting with candidate number 1, Mr. Brent Miller.
Thank you very much for everyone showing up tonight and listening to our second forum debate. And I don't really want to take a lot of time explaining who I am. I think most people at this point either know that from whether I've served on the council the last 4 years or grew up here, have a very large family, which you can see a sea of yellow over on my left side. So I would really rather take this majority of my time answering the questions. I think we've got some good questions ahead of us. But I will say that last time, a month ago when I came up and I spoke, I told you when I wanted to run for council 4 years ago, and I asked my dad and I told him, and his response was, are you sure you know what you're getting into? Or are you sure you want to do this? And of course I said yes. Well, what I didn't say is when I chose to run for mayor, I went to him again and I told him that, and you don't want to know what he said. The same thing applies to most people when I told them I wanted to run for mayor. A lot of them were kind of looking at me they're dumbfounded. Why? Why do you want to do that job? With everything we have going on, with everything the condition that the city is in, why do you want to do that job? Well, we have to clean it up. We have to start by cleaning up the city, cleaning up our image, bringing in some additional growth, business growth, and getting the jobs in here, getting the retail and the commercial aspects to Scottsboro to be able to get that growing, get the tourism built up, get our revenue stream built up. So that's exactly why I want to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for the introduction of our second candidate, Mr. Robin Shelton.
Thank you, and I want to thank our sponsors for putting this debate together. I've looked forward to this for quite some time. I am a lifelong resident of Scottsboro and been married to Vicki Webb Shelton for 42 years. We have 3 grown children, all married with 9 grandchildren, and they are my primary reason for running for the mayor of Scottsboro. I want to see things get better, as everyone does. I have a vested interest in my 9 grandchildren, hoping that we can improve conditions here within Scottsboro as far as jobs and what we have to offer the up-and-coming families. So I have a deeply rooted, vested interest in trying to make things better. I'm not going to spend a lot of time about myself. I think over the course of the past 9 or 10 months, as I've talked to people about my efforts to run for mayor and my door-to-door efforts, I feel like I have gotten to know a lot of people, and through our information that's out there on Facebook and my website, anybody that wanted to find anything out about me that didn't know it has had the opportunity. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I'm looking forward to the questions. So thank you.
Thank you. And we'll get right into those questions. And we're going to start with candidate number 2, Mr. Robin Shelton. Mr. Shelton, here's your question. What can you do to show the average citizen of Scottsboro that they have a voice in local government? And you have 2 minutes.
The average citizen. One of, 3 areas that I felt like needed to be addressed was road paving, drainage ditches, and community storm shelters. I feel like in an effort, I know since 2012 the county has put in numerous storm shelters, and the city of Scottsboro none, and I feel like that we need to pursue these efforts to put some storm shelters out there, which tells anybody and everybody, if we have these community storm shelters, that every life matters in Scottsboro. I think in our street paving projects, we need to not just worry about Broad Street and a couple of other main streets. Yes, they have a high traffic count, but we need to take a look at some of our subdivisions, residential areas, and look at the conditions. And I've seen some pretty bad conditions as I've gone door to door, the conditions of these roads, and we need to focus on some of these residential areas. They're taxpayers, they deserve that attention as well. And then also, drainage system. I've talked to Eddie Blizzard at length about this. The city adopted some 8 or 10 years ago a master plan. I think he said they spent about $130,000 on this master plan, and the efforts haven't been made to implement these plans. I know, you know, I feel like that's something, and I've seen some pretty horrible ditches as I've gone door to door. So I think those 3 areas.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shelton. Mr. Miller, you get the same question. What can you do to show the average citizen of Scottsboro that they have a voice in local government, and you will also have 2 minutes?
Well, first of all, I don't want to cater to the average citizen. I want to cater to all of them. It's very important to get out to every citizen, every person, every demographic, to make sure you are hearing their voice. And that goes to, you don't need to be stuck in an office at City Hall. You need to be out seeing those people, visiting those employees, visiting the department heads, and getting their input of what they feel like they need in the city of Scottsboro, as well as the business owners. Now, we have, if you followed any of the city business in the last several months, you'll know that the city is working on a plan right now with the Rescue Squad to lease them the National Guard Armory, which the National Guard is pulled out of. So they'll be taking possession of that shortly. Part of the plan that we've already discussed with the Rescue Squad is putting a tornado shelter there. So that's already been worked on. We've been working on that the last year since we visited a conference, I guess, in Tuscaloosa last May. And so that's already been worked on. We've got other plans for additional shelters as well in Scottsboro. Prior to any candidates announcing for the mayor, we actually also, if you go back and look at the minutes, we've worked on approving funding to increase the next phase of the drainage plan. So that's being worked on as well. All of this is being worked on. And you know, unless you're involved, you don't know that this is going on. But we are making these efforts because we are listening to the people and what they want.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Shelton, you're going to have 1 minute for rebuttal.
I guess in addressing the average citizen probably doesn't live, and when we say average, I don't want to put anybody in a box, but the average citizen is probably not going to live in the newest subdivision and have the newest paved road. So I just want to clarify that. But I think everybody deserves equal treatment. That's why I was proposing, you know, the road paving in various areas of town, not just the main streets and the storm shelters and so forth. I published early on my efforts about the storm shelters and drainage ditches. I know there's a grant that's been in the works for drainage ditches, but I also know that there's been a plan laying on the shelf for over 4 years, and nobody in the current administration has done anything about it.
Thank you. Our second question, we're going to start with Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, what can you do to better support our established local businesses and industries here in Scottsboro?
That goes to what I said previously, going to those people and speaking directly with those business owners and asking them what do they need. I don't think we've had a good relationship with that since I've been on the council with the administration. You have to understand what the council's responsibility is versus what the mayor's responsibility is. I know the council's responsibility. I know the mayor's responsibility. So at this point, it would be going out, visiting with those industries, visiting with those business owners, and asking them what you need. Additionally, we have several boards, several organizations that the city either appoints members to, or we help facilitate, or we attend the meetings. And most of those are not being utilized. I don't know why. It's kind of, when I sit up on the council and I go hear about the CDA, well, what have they done? What are they doing? And it may not be that the CDA doesn't want to really necessarily do anything. That's the Commercial Development Authority. It may be that they don't, they're just kind of, they want to do it. They want to help the business owners to be able to improve that commercial industry, but they don't have the support from the administration. They don't have the people willing to network with them and connect with them and go out and talk to the people and basically get those things moving so that we can have some progress in our commercial industry. And that goes with, same thing with IDB and EDA. We have to be able to work with those people. We have a better relationship with those groups, but we have to continue working on that relationship to be able to improve our industry within Scottsboro.
Thank you. Mr. Shelton, you're going to have the same question. What can we do to better support our established local businesses and industries?
Well, I've said early on, the first thing we need to do as far as the local industry, as far as recruiting jobs, we need to go to the existing industry that's invested a lot of years and millions of dollars in our community and see what we can do as city government to help them grow and expand their business. If they're a viable business, what can we do? I think that the Industrial Development Board does a lot of work behind the scenes that the council and mayor probably doesn't know about all the time as they're contacting other possible industry and so forth. I know the Commercial Development Board, I'll touch on what Mr. Miller said, they have had some trouble in the past, as my understanding, of having their funds released so that they could do some things that they felt necessary for commercial development. So I think there's got to be better communication with these boards from the mayor's office, with the increased tax money that's being allocated to the downtown redevelopment and the CDA. They will have some more resources that they can pull from, and we don't need to handcuff them. We need to work with them, and we have to have a good line of communication. We have to have a good line of communication with the Chamber of Commerce as they do industrial recruitment as well. And sometimes I think we're putting a lot of good money in the same spot from different organizations, and I think we have to have better communication and everybody understand their role in city government, whether it's the chamber, whatever board it is, the mayor and the council, so that we're not duplicating services and duplicating tax dollars that are being wasted.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Miller, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
A few of the ways that we can address some of these concerns are through tax incentives and tax rebates. The IDB is able to do that. The Commercial Development Authority, they're able to do some tax rebates. They can't do abatements, but they can come in and do some incentives later on. And that the CDA was created to help businesses who are already in the city and who are already working, whether they improve their product flow, whether they increase what they're selling, whether they add jobs to the market, whether they're expanding. All of those people can get assistance from the CDA, but again, the administration hasn't worked well enough with those and helped push those people to be able to make that happen. Additionally, the DRA, the Downtown Redevelopment Authority, has already began helping people. They've already helped. We've offered, I think, several facade renovation grants in the last couple of months. They've handed out 3 of those. Now, the businesses haven't turned them in yet. However, we do have several of those on file, and we've also done a few other permit grants and things like that. So these businesses do have that assistance, they do have that help, and we will continue that.
Thank you. Now for the next set of questions here. Candidate number 2, Mr. Shelton, will receive this question first. What are your goals for the downtown area? You'll have 2 minutes.
Well, I think downtown, we've got the Downtown Redevelopment Authority, and I think if people will read my article that was just published in the Clarion this week, I feel like the Downtown Redevelopment Authority needs to have some additional members involved with that. I think we need to have a building inspector and a fire marshal involved if we're talking about structures that are 80 to 100 years old. I think they need to be sitting members on the Downtown Redevelopment Authority. I feel like we need to have an active small business owner that can relate to a potential investor of property and someone willing to invest in expanding or opening a new business downtown. I applaud the DRA for acquiring parking lots. Parking is a primary concern, as you know, with the new improvements downtown that are slated to start after the first of the year. We're going to lose now, I think it's 15 parking places, and then we gained 11 with the parking lot from the post office, and then we've got some additional parking. But we have to think outside the box. We have to look at expanding and get out of the mindset that downtown is just what's around the courthouse square. We have to look at the Willis Street, Market Street, Caldwell Street, Andrew Street. We have to look at, if we're going to expand and grow downtown, we can't be boxed in with just what's sitting right around the courthouse square. Thank you.
Mr. Miller, what are your goals for the downtown area?
Have a vibrant downtown area that people can enjoy walking around. They can walk out to, whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a commercial business to purchase something. You have several retail stores on the square. We have to increase that. We have to increase that through foot traffic, whether that be restaurants or additional businesses, as well as events on downtown square. Now, the DRA, they don't operate only on the square. They actually operate a mile and a half outside of the square. So they do encompass a very large area. However, state statute dictates what the DRA can do and cannot do. So part of that is that they have to have a focus on downtown preservation, historic preservation. That's why most of the work done by the DRA is centered around the square. That's the most historic area. So we have added additional parking spaces. The DRA has really done a lot of work to do that. That is now public and free. So you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to worry about getting towed. The parking lot across from the post office is one of those that added 13 spaces, including one handicap. We've also just recently purchased, or the DRA has recently, they're working to purchase an additional parking lot that currently has, I think, 20 parking spaces. They're going to add 2 additional spaces. So now we're going to have 22 parking spaces that are just right off the square. As the traffic increases in the downtown area, you don't have to worry about building a parking garage. You don't have to worry about going and building additional lots. We have the parking around the square just to block off. People will walk to it. They will go, and if you have the means and the necessary, I guess, the businesses for them to show up and go support those businesses, they will park a block away and walk to it. That's perfectly fine, as long as they have something to do from the parking lot and to the storefront. But also cleaning up the downtown area so that it's an attractive place to park. Right now, we have city lots that are just hideous, broken glass all over a dumpster.
Mr. Shelton, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
Well, I think along the lines of downtown redevelopment, I think we have to be realistic on what we want to relocate down there or expand down there. From someone that's been in the retail business the last 9 years, I understand how vital it is for someone to park close to your business. I personally do not think, and it would be hard to convince me otherwise, that if you've got a retail business of some sort, and I'm talking about selling goods or a product or so forth, that somebody's going to want to park a block or 2 away and walk to your business. When we have families show up to our flower shop, sometimes it can be as many as 5 and 6 cars with one family. They will not walk a block to come to my shop. They would go somewhere else. So I think we have to understand what our focus is downtown and what we want to recruit to that area. We have to work with the county commission to see what we can do with the employees in the courthouse to free up some of that parking. I know we've got outlined parking areas. I think it's a concerted effort from everybody involved.
Thank you. Moving on to our next question. This we will begin with Mr. Miller. What is your plan to support businesses on the square during the estimated 9-month renovation project? About 2 minutes.
A few weeks ago, we had that brought up too. We had the guys come in and present their plan on what exactly it was going to take. Actually, coming up, I believe it's tomorrow, we have a meeting at City Hall where everyone is welcome to attend the meeting to hear the scope and the project and the plans and the time frame. So I encourage everyone else in the public and the business owners to attend that meeting so they can be familiar with that. But I asked the question that night, how will this impact the businesses? That's very critical, and we can't have a lot of downtime in these businesses because some of these may have to close. That's a long time frame. 9 months is a long time frame to have to worry about your business. Now, they have said they're doing one side at a time. So that's a positive. So you're not necessarily down for 4 months for one person. However, you do have the traffic, you do have the parking that's going to be an issue. And what I'm going to ask people to do, if we want progress, please be patient. That's as simple as I can make it. If you want this to improve, if you want these things to look better, if you want to have the ability to grow this in the future, then just have patience. We're going to try to work on this the best we can as a city and manage this project as efficiently as we can. However, at the same time, there's going to be some downtime. Now, I've spoken after the meeting. I went and spoke with the gentleman who was presenting, and I asked him, can it be done at night? Can some of this work be done at night? Can they come in at night? Can they put in the ramps into the business so that whenever this business comes to open at 9 o'clock in the morning till 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they're not inconvenienced? And he said that they would definitely take that into consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. What would be your plan to support those businesses around the square during that renovation time?
Well, as a business owner that suffered through the Woods Cove fiasco and we had 2.5 days from Thanksgiving to Christmas that we didn't have traffic allowed in front of our store. I can empathize and sympathize with these business owners and the dilemma they're facing. As the mayor, I will be walking down there and I will personally be talking to them and seeing what we can do and make sure there is a good line of communication with that contractor. Yes, they're supposed to build a ramp that's acceptable to the business owner and handicap accessible so that someone can get in that business. And as mayor, I'm going to make sure it's done. Nobody did that for me when we suffered through the Woods Cove fiasco. No council member, no mayor. And it was very upsetting. But I think going back to the downtown renovation, we also need to have a stakeholders group. And there's some people that live 1 block off the square. They need to be involved in our planning and what we want to do with downtown. Because, you know, if there's certain events that affect, these are elderly people that are living in a condo or something. I say elderly, excuse me if you're not elderly, if you're young and have a child in there, but they're impacted. So we have to be aware of what functions we have downtown and how it's going to impact the residents that live immediately off the square. So I think we need a stakeholders group that works closely with the DRA and what their goal is, but I just think that we have to have a better line of communication. But back to the project, a lot of people think that the asphalt's going to be involved. This is just going to deal with sidewalks and curbs and planters. The asphalt work is only going to be patchwork that is involved around the square, and it is going to be done in phases.
Mr. Miller, you have 1 minute for a rebuttal.
Well, the Woods Cove Quarter Road project was a nightmare for the entire city and everyone who lived in that area. My parents live out that way. I drove it almost daily, so I was there. I was right in the middle of it. And I did actually go and talk with several people at the hospital, one of the doctor's offices, and a few others in the area to ask them, some of the landowners, or I'm sorry, the residents in the area, to talk to them about their concerns. And it was put very point blank to me, that's not my responsibility. Well, you know, I feel differently. I feel like it is. As a council member, I'm elected by the people, and they want to voice their opinion to me, and I'm going to carry that opinion as far as I have to take it. Unfortunately, that was just a major problem with the current administration that didn't get a handle on the situation, and everyone involved suffered through that. And, you know, as mayor, that won't happen. I'll be out there, as I said earlier, I'll be out there every day. We'll be talking to you. We'll be making sure these projects are managed efficiently.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next question, we're going to go with Mr. Shelton. Cities all around us have a regular outdoor event or events that draw large numbers of people and revenue to their cities. Why don't we do the same?
That's a great question. I have discussed some of these concerns that I have with the Goose Pond General Manager and the chairman of their board, and we've talked at length about some upcoming events that possibly could be held there and expansion there. I think there's not a person in this room that doesn't feel like the Goose Pond has not nowhere reached its potential. I think it goes back to having a good working relationship with the Goose Pond Board, because that is a board that is appointed by the council. But I feel like we have to have a good open line of communication between the mayor, the council, and the Goose Pond Board, and what we can do to grow Goose Pond and attract more events there. I think as once we're past the renovation of the downtown area, we have to have more events planned that will utilize the downtown area. I mean, the kids' movie night's always been a great hit for that. I think talking about the downtown area, one of the things that has to be taken into consideration, everybody wants First Monday to thrive and grow, and they have car shows the first Saturday of each month to try to help those merchants and help those with the car show. But something's got to be done with this while the renovation's going on with the downtown square as well. So we've got to have more planning and communication. Communication has lacked a great deal. We've got to have more planning and communication on how we're going to plan these events and how we're going to deal with them, and also deal with the upcoming construction downtown that's going to impact the merchants and the First Monday vendors.
Thank you. Continuing with this question, Mr. Miller, cities all around us have regular outdoor events that draw large numbers of people and revenue to the cities. Why do you feel the same?
I don't feel we do the same because I don't think we've had anybody with the care or the concern to do it. I've actually been very involved with a lot of outdoor events, a lot of public events. I served as the chairman for 1 year on the color cruise that we held down at Goose Pond, and unfortunately the city was not willing to support that event at that time, and so therefore it just kind of went away, and that was a sad day for Scottsboro because that was a very large event that pulled people from the tri-state area. I'll plug the DRAs and the tourism committee and the barbecue cook-offs. Their barbecue is coming up next Saturday, October the 8th on the square. That's one thing that I've been working with closely to make sure that we can have an additional event, new events. We have to take care and preserve our historic events such as First Monday, and they need to maintain where they're at on the square so that it keeps the tradition alive. However, we can't stop there. We have to work on additional events, additional functions that are outdoor events that everyone can enjoy. That's the beauty of the additional parking spaces that we have, that the DRA is working on purchasing, is you now have those additional parking spaces so that you can utilize the outside portion or the inside or outside portion of the downtown square, those four sides for these events, but you have additional parking that you don't have to worry about being towed at now, and it's free. Like I said, I've been involved in many outdoor events, many functions that are going to bring tourism to Scottsboro, and that is one of the primary functions that I want to increase. We have to promote these events, we have to be involved, we have to be engaged, and quite frankly, the last several years we have.
Mr. Shelton, you have 1 minute for rebuttal.
I'd just like to expand that with the Veterans Field rebuild, I guess you could say, and the renovations to the Redcon pool, we will have other venues to offer people with increased tournaments and so forth to increase our tourism activity there. So and the city also allocates about $60,000 a year to the chamber. And so I think we have to work closer as city government with the chamber. And I'm not picking on JP sitting here, but we've got to work closer with them in promoting what's going on in Scottsboro and Jackson County, because if something happens in Jackson County, it impacts Scottsboro as well. So we have to work, it comes back to communication. We have to have better communication and looking at how we're spending our tax dollars so that we're not duplicating services and wasting tax dollars, and making sure that we coordinate everything as it should be and get the most out of our tax dollar.
Thanks, sir. The next question, Mr. Miller, you will start this off. If elected, what is your plan on day one for Scottsboro?
Day one is basically to sit down with the employees, with the department heads, and the council members, obviously not all together, but sit down with all those individuals and have a conversation with them, just a very frank and open dialogue, very candid discussion. What do you need from me? I think we've been lacking that. I'll be able to step in and help those employees who feel like they haven't had a voice in the past several years. I've visited with many of them. We have a little over 200 employees within the city, and so I've spoken, I hope, to all of them. I'm sure I've missed a couple, and I apologize for that. But to visit with those individuals, those department heads, and ask them what do they need from an administrative standpoint. What do they need from the council? I've served 4 years on a council. I know what the council's responsibility is. I have an excellent relationship with the current council. So I could immediately go to those members and say, this is what this department is needing. Can we make it work? It's about working together, having the open dialogue with the department heads and the employees to make sure that happens. So that will be day one, because I think that's the most critical. If we don't have the output from our employees, then the city will not function.
Thank you. Mr. Shelton, if elected, what would your plan for day one be for Scottsboro?
Well, first of all, when elected, I think a fresh perspective on everything is a good start. But after, obviously the swearing in and all the whatever goes on the first day, I want to sit down first and foremost with the City Hall employees and have a discussion of who I am and what I'm about and my expectations. Then I want to go and meet with each and every city department. I want to make sure they've got my cell number. I want to let them know that I am there for them. We do have a chain of command, but I want to be the employee's mayor. I want them to feel like that they can come and talk to me, but we have to respect who their department head is and what their concerns are, and make sure we go through the proper channels. I know there's a lot of concerns out there that deal with health care, equipment, and so on and so forth. But I want them to know that I am approachable. I think that I've demonstrated that throughout my professional career. When I was in healthcare, doing mission work, with our retail business, I feel like I'm an approachable person. I've got 9 grandkids. I think sometimes maybe too approachable. But really, I just want to have a good line of communication starting day one and let them know who I am and what I'm all about, if they don't already know that.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, you have a minute for a rebuttal.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I put my cell phone number on my every door direct mail postcards and my door hangers, so I think everyone in Scottsboro now has my cell phone number. You don't? I'll give it to you. 256-244-5000. Pretty simple to remember, but basically, I'm open. I'm an open book. Come talk to me, ask me anything, I'll sit down and I'll talk with you as long as it needs to get the job done. As far as insurance, it was a great idea that we had to come up with a committee to look into our insurance benefits. Just this past week, we had Mr. Head come and present those findings to us. Instead of a $200 copay, it went down to $100. Instead of having a 5% increase, we now only have a 1.2% increase. But we brought in employees who served, actual employees, not department heads, but employees, one from the fire department, one from the street department, and one from the police department, who came in and sat down with everyone within City Hall, and they looked and they said, this is what we need and this is what is not working. It was a very successful meeting.
Thank you, gentlemen. To the next question, Mr. Shelton, you'll be able to go first on this one. Studies have shown that millennials are driving the new economy. How can we encourage millennials to locate here in Scottsboro?
Well, I feel like with the millennials, they're very active lifestyle. And I think we have to look at what we have to offer as far as the active, middle-aged or younger adults. I've got, I guess you could call my daughter-in-law and son-in-law's children as well. So I've got 6 within my family, and they're very active individuals. The city just got awarded a grant. They're fixing to expand the Goose Pond Walking Trail another 2,500 feet. I think we need to look at, as we do the Veterans Field complex, we need to tie all that together with playgrounds and sidewalks and so forth. We need to look at what we can do to offer. One of the things that's sitting out there, the city's got 10 acres property that they've acquired a long-term lease from TVA that's adjacent to the Newcomer Bridge area. I think we need to expand that and look at biking and walking trails. The city, that is going to be on my long-range plans as we move forward to develop that area, that 10 acres. I just feel like that we have to look at what we can do. Biking, cycling is a big thing. We need to, the rec department needs to step up their game, and we need to look at what we're offering as far as triathlons and all sorts of outdoor events that will attract these individuals. They also are looking for more eating establishments, outdoor restaurants. One of the things that's been discussed is possibly a restaurant in this 10-acre park out there that would overlook the river. I think that would be a great idea if we can get the right investors involved. So we have to have a plan. It comes back to planning and everybody on the council, which I think they would buy into this, and moving forward, but we have to have a plan of what we're wanting to achieve.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, with the study showing that those millennials are driving the economy, how would you encourage those millennials to locate here in Scottsboro?
I think, first of all, if you look back at all the answers that I've had to the previous questions, that ties directly in with millennials. Downtown redevelopment. A lot of younger people are wanting to go to a downtown area and be able to either live or work or shop in a downtown area that they don't mind walking a block. They really don't. Recreation, that's a very huge key. We have to have the recreational abilities. They want that. They need that. The retail and the commercial availability. They want that increased. They want that expanded. They don't necessarily want to have to drive to Chattanooga or Huntsville to go purchase something. If we can have that availability here, then we'll be able to keep them here as well as maintain the recreational abilities. Now, the property that we acquired on a long-term lease out toward the bridge, It's actually a great spot for some type of event. And we've already received quotes on getting crusher rock to help pave that street. Not pave it, but to put some crusher rock down. We've already went and met with Water Sewer Gas to try to talk to them. Their intake there is actually right there near the dock. So, you know, you can't go in necessarily right now and start building that up because that's where we all drink our water. So we have to go meet with them first to be able to lay the groundwork to get that expanded so that later on we can come in and then we can put something in place. But, you know, all of these things I've already been working on. I've already been getting these estimates, getting these plans, working on developing this and promoting this, and I will continue to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. You have 1 minute for a rebuttal.
Well, I agree, and the 10 acres being discussed in talking to individuals with water, sewer, gas, there was a council member mentioned, but it wasn't Mr. Miller, so if you've done that, I commend you. But as we move forward, I think it comes back to planning and knowing what we want to achieve, and we do want to promote an active lifestyle. As people get older, they want to stay active. It's proven it improves your lifestyle. There's longevity there. So I think it all comes back to planning and having a plan instead of a knee-jerk reaction to this or that.
Thank you, sir.